Auditor General Karen Hogan says the federal government needs to look at new and improved ways of delivering services to First Nations people.
Sustained focus from Indigenous Services Canada to rethink how it delivers programs while collaborating with First Nations to improve their capacity is an important step to resolving these persistent issues, improve outcomes, and advance reconciliation.
Her report finds a number of problems with the way Indigenous Services delivers primary health care, safe drinking water, and emergency services to First Nations. This includes, in spite of repeated promises to eliminate all long-term drinking water advisories, 35 remained in place at the time of the report, including 9 that were over a decade long. Since 2016, no assessment of whether First Nations were receiving comparable primary health care services to non-First Nations, only a handful of emergency services agreements between the federal government, First Nations, and the provinces, and failure to meet staffing targets for healthcare services on First Nations. Hogan says in particular the status quo is not working when it comes to the provision of emergency services.
But in the absence of having agreements and knowing exactly who will do what in an emergency, it leaves a lot of uncertainty and concern in First Nations communities. So I think that the Indigenous Services Canada really needs to rethink how they're approaching this. They're doing a lot of engagement with First Nations communities, but really trying to do the old engagement and come out with a different outcome. And I think it's time they rethink how they approach stuff.
At a press conference after the release of the auditor's report, Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Galmasti said progress has been made in some areas, such as significantly reducing the number of long-term boil water advisories, but work remains to be done.
So there are some things in the report, that are a guidepost for us. We're going to continue working on this. It is a pathway forward. We will be responding with an action plan, of course. That's the next critical step. But I really want to highlight that this report also points to a lot of critical work at the community level. And that's where ISC is moving towards.
That concludes today's press conference.
Auditor General reports and recommendations are non-binding on government. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.